Great. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our new webinar series with the Glenn Jones Group. Today is the first series that we have planned, the first webinar in the series that we've planned on first-time home buyers. So forgive us if we make a few mistakes in here. It is our first time through, and we are going to work hard, but we do have some great information to share. And right as we start talking, someone started grinding. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. They're doing a little construction in our office, so I apologize if you hear that. Hopefully it won't last long. My name is Brian Burge. I'm your host today. I'm the group administrator and a realtor for the Glenn Jones Group at Coldwell Banker Access Realty. So we have some valuable information for you today, and hopefully you'll take a lot from it. We specialize in all aspects of residential real estate, from relocation services, buying, selling, staging. So anything that you need help with as far as buying and selling real estate, we're your team to help you through that. I'll introduce you to each person as we go through our presentation today. We did reserve some time for a Q&A session at the end of the meeting, so feel free. We do have a text box. What is it called, Julie? I'm sorry, the chat box. You have a chat box at the bottom of your screen, at the top of your screen, and you also have a Q&A box. We'll do our best to answer those during the class as we go. I'll monitor it, but we'll also have some time at the end. So welcome again, and we hope that you learn a lot, and we'll get started here. Again, my name is Brian. This is my assistant, Girlie. I had to put a picture of her up there for everybody to see. And we also ask, too, that you visit our website, homes.greatersavannah.com. We have a lot of terrific information on there. There's tools to help you through your home search. You can register, search for homes, save searches will be sent to you. There's information about all of our team on there. And we also have a blog on there that we're really proud of, where all of our different agents are in the process of writing blogs, sharing their real estate knowledge. Be sure to check that out. There's some great information on there already and more to come. We'll also be posting future webinars on there as well. So be sure to bookmark our blog and save it and visit it often. All right, so let's get started. Our first person that's going to present today is our group founder, a licensed Georgia real estate, Savannah native, and a soon-to-be grandpa here in a couple of weeks, right? I think.
That's right.
Mr. Glenn Jones, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. First off, I'd like to thank everyone that's logged on here to join us today. I know you're busy, and I thank you for taking your time away from your schedule to get on and hear what you have to say. First off, now that you've survived the struggle on whether to buy or sell a home, your first decision is, do I work with a real estate agent or not? Well, I'm here to tell you that it really isn't up for debate at all. Buying or selling a home isn't an everyday and every week or normally a yearly task. So thank you for that, Brian. So why leave it to chance that you are handling it correctly? So I have 5 reasons to give you why you always sign on and work with a real estate agent. The first one is home buying and selling can be overwhelming and nerve-wracking. And an agent can ease that tension and help calm those nerves. And, you don't want to go through this process, nail biting and having to take antacids every night because of the tension that's on you. The second thing is having an agent gives you access into homes throughout the area. And that's all without having to call every agent that's on every sign that you see that interests you. You have one point of contact when you pick an agent. The third thing is legal contracts are intimidating, they're wordy, and they're hard enough for us to understand at times. But an agent knows what should be and shouldn't be included in the contract and in that pile of paper trail that follows all the legality of this stuff. So they can help you explain the ins and outs of the legal aspect and on the of the paper trail. Fourth, a real estate agent is trained to do a comparable market analysis. All right, and this compares prices in the vicinity and make sure that you're not overpaying or even underpaying for a home. And they help you get an acceptable deal. And that's the goal. You want to get into the house, but you don't want to overpay, underpay. You want a good deal whenever you're buying. And last but not least, selecting a real estate agent ensures you that you have someone looking out for your best interests throughout the whole process. They are totally dedicated to you and your side of the deal. So whenever you're going to buy or sell, make sure that you select an agent that you're comfortable with and that you have a sense or a feel of connection with. Okay? Thank you,
Great
Brian.
information there, Glenn. I appreciate it. So you said one of the points I wanted to touch on just to kind of follow up was about, a lot of times people feel like they have to ride around and check signs and call real estate agents. So you're saying that any of our agents are able, we'll be able to show them just about any home that's listed in the MLS.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Go through.
Well, the one mistake people make a lot of times, Brian, is they go and they see a sign on a piece of property, and they think that they have to go through that agent that's on the sign. Well, that's absolutely what you shouldn't do, because that agent is representing the seller, and you need someone on the buying side, someone on their side that will look after your interest. And that's why you select an agent to help you through the process.
And absolutely. And a good agent should talk to their clients or customers about agency and about where their due diligence lies as far as to the seller. Like you said, that's a great point. So good, we appreciate that. Now we're here to welcome one of our great partners that we work with at the Glenn Jones Group. He's a local mortgage broker right here in the Savannah market. It's nice when we have a lender as an agent to be able to work with someone that's local, and we can pick up a phone and not have to call a 1-800 call center. So it's always great. We always kind of encourage that. Please welcome Mr. Patrick Robertson of Coastal Custom Mortgage. Patrick, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. So first, we're going to kind of hit on the pre-qualification process. And this is really the start of your financing journey. You're going to choose a lender to start the conversation with. And generally, they'll either take a short application with you, either over the phone, meet in person, or send out an online application. The application's pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you occupation history, residence history, a little bit about your assets, and a few disclosure questions about your past. They'll take this basic information, pull in your credit, run some numbers for you, and really see what products they have available that you would qualify for. Sometimes there's multiple products, and they'll sit down with you and go over the pros and cons of each, and that's where you'll start talking about interest rates and down payment and that sort of thing. They'll generally ask you for some supporting documents to go along with those the application, the questions that you answered. We have on screen here sort of the basics. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but these are some of the things that you can expect to be asked for. Recent pay stubs, bank statements, W-2s, in some cases tax returns, and then also depending on how you've answered some of your disclosure questions, there might be a few other pieces of information that they need from you as well. This kind of brings me to our next point, and we hear the terms pre-qualification and pre-approved thrown around a lot in the industry. Really, those words seem to be used interchangeably. When a client comes in or a real estate agent asks, is this client been pre-qualified or pre-approved? A lot of times they think they mean the same thing, but they really don't. Pre-qualification, that really ends at the end of the initial application. So once they've got that initial information from you, they can run your credit. You've told them what you make for income. You've told them about your assets. So really at that point, it's all stated income, stated assets, and they can pre-qualify you based on information. What most people like and what most lenders would encourage you to do is go through the pre-approval process. That's where they actually get these documents that we're talking about, validate the information that you've given them, and most lenders use an automated underwriting system as well to kind of shore up these numbers and make sure that you really are good to go. When they issue a letter, there's generally a pre-qualification letter and a pre-approval letter. And most listing agents, when you go look at a house, they're going to want someone that has a pre-approval letter because it holds more water. Generally at this time, once we've finished the pre-qualification process, we've narrowed down a product that we think would be best suited for you, go over the down payment, the loan terms. Everyone wants to know about interest rate. Now, I'll tell you, this is the point where the lender is going to give you a rough estimate. because interest rates with mortgages change with the market. So as you start your house hunting journey, it might be, a 1 week, 2 weeks, 60 days, 90 days down the road before you find that house that you're ready to move forward on. And at that point, you can actually lock in an interest rate. And during that time frame, we generally see some rate movement up, down, and sideways. So just bear that in mind. They'll give you a good rough estimate. And, at that point, you have a good feel of where your payment's going to be and can start moving forward.
That's great information, Patrick. I want to follow up on a question there, though. Something we deal with a lot, we hear a lot in the mortgage process is about lockdown and locking in your interest rate. You just spoke of it. I know it gets a bit confusing sometimes. Most companies, most lenders charge you if you lock in and a lower interest rate pops up and you want to change that. Is there always a fee associated with that? Do y'all kind of explain the benefits of doing it or not doing it?
So without getting too much into the weeds on this, when you lock an interest rate, it's basically an agreement with both you and the lender that this is what your interest rate will be for a specific set time as long as you close within that window. There are some options if interest rates drop that some lenders might have float downs or renegotiation. So it's hard to say if there's a flat fee, but honestly, I'm not a proponent of floating the market. Once you go under contract, if the interest rate available makes your housing payment where you're comfortable, I always say go ahead, lock in your interest rate, sleep well at night. You don't want to have to worry about the market increasing and your interest rate increasing while you're trying to float it. You're not day trading your mortgage. This is a big investment, so lock early and sleep well.
And you're not talking about a difference of money. The interest rates, we're not talking about a moving a point or two at a time. They're moving quarter, eighth of a point, or even less, and then.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, for us, a big movement, a quarter change in interest rate would be a huge movement. And to put it in context, it's about on a 30-year note, $7 a month for every 100,000. So on a $100,000 purchase or $100,000 loan amount, a movement of 0.125 in rate only equates to about $7.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you so much, Patrick. So now that you've kind of moving through the process of purchasing a home, you've got your pre-approval, you've found your realtor that you're going to work with and trust. And as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts to this with money, and you have to feel comfortable. And that's why we think it's important to have a lender that you trust and a realtor that you trust, because they're going to be a great team for you to move forward. As we move on now, we're going to bring in our next panelist. She is the energetic member of our team, as we always like to say. She's a Savannah native, a licensed Georgia realtor, mother of 4, right? And so here, without further ado, here comes Miss Julie Horton to talk about finding the perfect home for you.
Hey guys, so I'm really glad to have everybody on. Today my goal is to help you by giving you some keys to success. But really quickly, I want to go over a couple of myths in the home buying process. Oh, never mind. I'm going to go ahead and go over. There we go. Okay, so go ahead and go back down one really quickly, Brian. Can you go backwards?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So sometimes whenever we get really excited about home buying, one of the things that we do is we get fixated on, that's okay, you can stop where you are. We get fixated on a kind of home. And so what I want to encourage you is just to have a nice big open mind whenever you're home searching. So 3 big keys to having a successful home buying purchase is number 1 is going to be communication. The first thing you want to communicate is where you want to live. What's important about the neighborhood that you live in? It's really important that if you don't know, that you start to think about those things and you let your realtor know. Another thing that's going to be really important is, what does your next home look like? Does it have 2 bedrooms? How many bathrooms does it have? Do you want a pool? Do you want a big backyard? For example, if you have children, you probably don't want to live near a busy road or a highway. Another thing that's really important to communicate with your realtor is your motivation for moving. Why are you making this move? I know that might sound kind of strange, but like, for example, I currently am working with a recently widowed client. And one thing that's really hard for her is to get back on communication with me. I mean, she's grieving. So when I send her information, it takes her a while to get back with me. I know not to press on her. I know exactly, she likes to text a lot. So understanding your motivation is going to be part of your realtor being able to serve you best. The last thing you want to communicate is your time frame to move. There's a really big difference between, Julie, I need to move in 2 months, or hey, I got 12 months to move. So if you let your realtor know how fast that you need to be she needs to be working with you, or he needs to be working with you, it'll be a lot more smooth for you guys in communication. So key number 2 to a successful home search is going to be your reviewing properties online. So after you've given your realtor all the information that they need in order to help you find homes, they're going to go through the market and hand select some properties they think you will like. They usually will email these to you. So you'll need to take your time, go through these, read the description, and then this is key, give your realtor feedback about what you do and what you don't like about these properties. That will help them, get the search down more narrow and help you select fewer and fewer homes. When you have found some homes that you think you'd like to go see, now comes the exciting part. You now get a chance to have your realtor make all of these for you, and then you're going to go out and start looking homes. So there's a couple of ways we're going to do this. If you are healthy and well and you can see homes in person, your realtor is going to provide some safety features like gloves or masks and some hand sanitizer. If you, however, are in a category that is at risk because of COVID-19, we also offer virtual tours and 360 tours. All right, so now comes the third key to a successful home searching experience. So once we've seen all of our homes, we're just going to review really quick. After you've seen your home, your realtor will then start you in the process of making the offer. So let's review the 3 keys. First is good communication with your realtor and your realtor communicating with you. Second is going to be review properties online. And third is going to be seeing the homes, whether virtually or in person. All right, and that's all I've got. So Brian, it's back to you.
Great information, Julie. I appreciate that. So Julie, on these virtual tours, is that just now kind of gotten popularity because of the pandemic and everything, or is that something as a future thing as well?
So I really think it's going to become a very big thing from now on. Not that people are going to stop seeing houses in person, but it's going to be a really great way for you to see more of the house. A lot of times when you see pictures, it's a little deceptive. You're not sure how big the yard really is. And these virtual tours are giving you a lot more information.
Right. Also, Julie, when you go out home searching, how many homes do you try to see in a day? I know sometimes first-time home buyers can be ambitious and say, oh, I want to go see 15 homes in a day, not realizing the logistics of it and how tough it can be. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on how far apart these homes are. If they're all within about the same neighborhood, I would really not recommend seeing more than 4 or 5. And that's going to be throughout the day, just because after a while you get really tired. It's exhausting to look at homes over and over again. I would give 45 minutes to an hour to each home, just so you can get a nice good look. And then I also suggest that you rate each home either 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, and then name them. We once saw a greenhouse, every room was green, and we called it the Kermit house.
And that's an important point, really, because I'm telling you, even if they start running, saying, well, 1, 2, 4 main, they don't stand out. But when you name them the greenhouse or the house with the pool or whatever, you come up with a funny name for them. You really do that. That's a great tip. So thank you for that. Well, now that you've found your perfect home, you've got your financing in order, I think the rest is easy. Well, you're really just getting started. But lucky for you, on this part of the journey, we have an expert realtor in our office here today that's going to explain to you the process of making an offer, negotiating an offer, and going from there. She is an expert realtor in negotiations. She is one of our group founding members. She is also a proud grandmother, and we call her our group mom as well. So please welcome Ms. Christine Estridge.
Thank you, Brian. So once you've landed on the perfect house for you, this is another place where having a realtor is going to come in where you have to have a realtor here. Your realtor is going to do a comprehensive market analysis, or a CMA, as Glenn touched on earlier, to be sure that the house that you've chosen is in line in price with the market value in the area. This is also going to help you later down the line with your appraisal process to be sure the house appraisal comes in line and the lenders are going to be willing to lend that price for your property. Then you're going to be comfortable making an offer price also once you know that the CMA is in the right price range for the house that you want. Once you make an offer and write up a contract and everybody agrees to the terms and everybody signs, this is a binding legal contract. And so you need to understand that, and your realtor needs to go over every point in this contract with you. There are more points than what I'm going to touch on. I'm just going to touch on some of the general points here. Again, your realtor should go over the contract with you in more detail and individually. Obviously, the first point in the contract is going to be the offer price. That's the most important thing. The next point will be the seller contribution costs to closing, what the seller's going to contribute to your closing costs. Then you have a closing date you need to choose. It's traditionally around 30 days. It may be running just a little longer now with more people working from home. It may take a little longer to get underwritten with your lender. May take a little longer for the sellers if they need to find a place to live and move. But traditionally, it's usually around 30 days. Then you're going to have to decide on earnest money. Your earnest money is the amount that you're going to write a check for and put down initially within 3 to 5 days of the binding date to show that your intent to buy this house is real. Again, it's about 1% of the purchase price of the home traditionally. You have to choose a due diligence time, which is normally around 10 to 14 days. This is a very important period of time where you have to decide if this is actually the house for you. This is like a free look at the house. You need to get an inspection done on the house by a qualified inspector. You can do your room measurements. You can cruise the neighborhood, ask whatever questions you need to ask to be sure that this house is right for you. Within this period of time, you can get out of this contract for any reason or no reason at all, and you can get your money back, your earnest money back, no questions asked. Once this period of time is over, you want out for any reason, you're going to have more of an issue to get your earnest money back, and you could run into some problems there. So the due diligence period is important, and it's an important timeline to watch. There's also a stipulation section in the contract. The stipulation section allows you to ask for some things you want. Now, this is not where you're going to ask for any repairs or anything like that. That comes along later in the process. The stipulation section is like if they have a chandelier you want to be sure they're going to leave, or the shed in the backyard that they haven't listed as staying, you want to ask for that. You can do that. I traditionally or normally will ask for a 1-year home warranty to be bought by the seller and a clear termite letter to be sure there's no termites before you buy the house. Then you have, there's other points in this contract that your realtor will need to go over with you individually. So then you make your offer. Everybody holds their breath and waits to see. Their seller will either accept the offer as is, or they can counter on any of the points we just discussed. All of these points are negotiable. They can ask for more money and less time of due diligence. They could ask for more earnest money. Any one of these points they could go back or forth on until you get a binding offer. Once everybody agrees on all the terms and you have a binding offer, then you need to get your earnest money in. You need to get your inspection ordered. The inspector will come and go through the house head to toe. They'll give you a report of everything that needs to be repaired, from the tiniest things to the largest things. You'll decide what you're going to ask the seller for. Now, the seller, again, can say, nope, I'm not fixing anything, or I'll fix number 2, 4, and 7 on your list. This, again, within your due diligence period, you'll have to decide if this is something you can live with or if you want out of the contract. They don't have to fix everything. They don't have to fix anything. This is, again, negotiation where you can get out or stay in and then move forward. It just all has to be done within this due diligence period. You also, during this period of time, you need to be sure you're staying in touch with your lender, getting the documents that they want to keep your loan on track. And at this point, turn it back over to Patrick to discuss more about what that's going to look like.
Thanks. So yeah, so at this point you're under contract. It's time for your lender to get to work for you. What you can expect at this point is the lender will talk to you about the rate locks that we kind of discussed earlier, locking an interest rate for you. You'll get a large packet, usually emailed out for electronic signatures. It's going to contain all the legalese in it. So the lender's fair lending laws, the government mandated loan estimate, and probably 7 or 8 other pages of loan documentation. So I encourage you to go through it, jot down any questions that you have, and then before e-signing, give your lender a call, go through everything, make sure you're all on the same page, and then you'll e-sign. At that point, the lender can start ordering appraisals, title work, and homeowners insurance for you. You do need to budget for the appraisal cost up front. Appraisers are independent contractors. It's done like that on purpose to keep the lenders from having due influence on appraised value. So because they are independent contractors, they have to be paid when they go out there to do the work, just like a home inspector, so they will generally collect for that. Average appraisal cost, I would figure roughly $500. It really depends on loan type, because that's going to determine what type of appraisal has to be done. At this point, the processor will gather your documentation that you've sent in over the pre-approval process, and then ask you for anything that has stale dated. Some of our documents like pay stubs, bank statements, they're only good for a certain amount of time. So we'll refresh those documents, they'll organize it, and send it up for initial underwrite. The underwriter is going to go through everything, make sure that we did our job correctly on the front end. As long as everything was done correctly on the front end, hopefully there's no issues. Occasionally underwriters do uncover something that was buried deep down in there that wasn't seen on the initial review, but hopefully at this point they give us everything looks good, and we're just waiting for final documentations to come in for your clear to close. That clear to close is what everyone's waiting for. That means you have final approval, appraisals in, titles in, insurance is in, and any documentation that the underwriters requested from you is also made in. During this process, there are several things that we want to make sure we don't do, and several things that we want to do. It's up on the screen here. Just to hit on a couple of these, I'm not going to read them all off, but the main thing not to do is go out and take on any more debt. We don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize what was an approvable loan now not being an approvable loan. Biggest case example that we can kind of show everyone is everyone wants new furniture for their house, so they go to Rooms to Go. Rooms to Go says same as cash, 12 months. They take out $5,000 worth of credit, and now we have to count that against them in their debt to income ratios, and they're no longer approvable for the loan. So we don't want to do that. No large deposits going into your checking accounts. Basically, everything just needs to stay as it was when you started the process. Things that you do definitely want to do, make sure you're communicating with your lender. Make sure that when they ask you for something, that you're getting it back to them quickly. These things take time. Once you get the document back to the lender, they normally have to send it to the underwriter. It goes in line because there are other loans that the underwriters are working on. Then it's reviewed. Then we know that it's good. So really treat everything as it's an urgent issue and get it back to the lender. Brian, you got the next slide? There's one more you want me to hit on. Major mistakes that we want to make sure we're not doing. One, they're looking at a home before applying for a mortgage. Get your pre-qualification first. That's going to help you out to know exactly what price point that you're looking at, to make sure you're not looking too high, too low, that you're comfortable with payments, and all that. Talking to one lender, I encourage you, even as a lender, you can talk with a couple. Really, that pre-qualification process is where you need to talk with a couple of lenders, see who you think you're going to work well with, and kind of grow that relationship from there. You're going to be talking and working with this lender for sometimes up to 6 months, depending on how long it takes you to find a house, right? So make sure it's a good working relationship between the two. Draining your savings, being careless with credit, assuming you need 20% down payments. Again, once you start talking with the lender, they'll go over a lot of this with you and kind of your options, but definitely don't need 20% down payment. And I would say the biggest thing that I can recommend for a first-time home buyer is actually number 3 on this list. Buy more house than you can afford. When you talk with a lender the first time, before you start talking about what purchase price you want or I like this house, a good lender should ask you where you want to keep your monthly payment, especially for a first-time home buyer, because that's going to drive everything else. A lot of times as lenders, we can qualify you for much more than what you're comfortable for. And I promise you, it is better to know, where your payment is, get you qualified for that payment, and then work backwards and tell you what a purchase price is that you should probably be looking at. So that's my 2 cents on that. And
it's funny because you say that, Patrick. You always get the couples that'll tell you the first time home buyer, well, they qualified us for $400,000, but we only want to spend $250,000, and then there's always that debate in the process. Especially if we're a married couple, they're always going. The husband usually wants to spend less. The wife says, "Well, if I can find the perfect house, I'll be willing to spend that much." So that's a great point about that.
Yeah,
know
your budget.
If I can follow up with a couple questions there, Patrick, for you.
Sure.
I'm going back to the previous slide. This bullet point here says, do not omit, exaggerate information on your application seriously. Can you talk about mortgage fraud a little bit? I know that's what that's referring to.
Yeah. So
the things that they're talking about there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you want to be honest with your lender from the get-go. Not only answer questions that they ask you, but if you think there's something that they should know about, you should probably tell them, because they probably do need to know about it, and it will come up sometime during the process. You do want to be honest. Mortgage fraud is a real thing. There's a document that you will sign when you get your initial disclosures that says mortgage fraud is investigated by the FBI. They're serious about it. After the implosion of 2008, there's even more scrutiny on it. When we underwrite files, one of the things that the underwriters are looking for specifically would be mortgage fraud. One of the biggest things in our industry now is occupancy fraud. So if you say you're going to live in a home, it needs to be a home that you're going to live in. If they ask you about deposits in your account, and you say they're from something, and then they ask for documentation and you can't prove that they're from where you said they came from, that's an issue.
Yeah, great. The other thing I wanted to bring up, Patrick, is, like realtors and lenders, we do this all the time, and you guys certainly work with numerous clients at a time. And I know the last few days before closing for a new buyer is an exciting time, and they're getting going. In this process, we talk about it all the time. It always goes really smooth. There's never any hiccups. The stuff gets to the lender, the lawyer's office is ready to go, and there's no last minute confusion. Or am I confused on that? No.
The last week of the transaction, there's a lot of moving parts that are coming together. And one, it goes back to communication, right? If your lender is asking you for something that last week, it is a sense of urgency. Get it back to them literally as soon as possible. They are getting the clear to close from the underwriter. Your file is moving to a closer. The closer is talking with the attorney. They're balancing the closing disclosure, which means they're calculating every penny and every charge and every fee throughout the entire transaction and putting it on one document. So there's a lot of pieces that have to come together, and that's really when you need to be on high alert to be getting back to and answering any questions that come your way.
Yeah, another person that comes in that process later toward the end is the paralegal at the attorney's office. The attorneys are the ones that sign it and look pretty at the table signing and giving you the keys, but it's really the paralegals, and not to beat on Patrick here, but his underwriters and closers are the same person at his office. They're the ones that do all the behind the scenes stuff. So they're the ones that are going to call you and ask questions. And, it's really important that you respond to them, but it gets pretty crazy. And some of these attorneys have 30 and 40 closings in one day. Like if you go to the last day of the month on a Friday, there'll be 30 or 40 closings at one attorney. And so that's a lot of moving parts and a lot of papers that they're having to handle. So it can be frustrating, but the process works. We do it all the time. It's just for a first timer, it can be a little intimidating or scary. So, and closings do get pushed off. It is a reality. They're supposed to happen tomorrow at 10 a.m. and you might get the call at 2:30 this afternoon. Well, something's missing. We're not going to be able to close tomorrow. So we try to avoid that at all costs, but it is a fact of life that we all deal with. So, well, we thank y'all for joining us today. We've saved some time now. for some question and answers. We have a chat bubble or a Q&A bubble. Is that the right word, Christy? I mean, Julie?
It
Or
is.
that?
Yeah.
So
Q&A
anybody would like to ask some questions now of the panel? We have some time. And just
I
touch-
have one question. Can I go ahead and ask it? It says,
Sure.
will I have to pay closing fees? And if so, how much?
That's a question from one of our clients. Typically, I'll take part of that, and then we'll ask Patrick to take part of that too. It's something that's a negotiating point in the deal. You can ask the seller to pay for it. There again, most of the time, I would say the usual and customary amount is 3%, but some loans, such as VA, you can do 4%, and there's different rules on different amounts that can be contributed, like on investment properties and things like that. Patrick can talk more about that. But it is a negotiating point in the deal. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think most sellers are willing to contribute. Realtors, am I right? Do y'all ever get? I mean,
They're more willing now than ever, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of it just depends on the deal, on the type of deal that it is. You can offer to split the cost sometimes. And again, your lender, if you have a good working relationship with your lender, they can always, there's things they can do to offset some of that, correct? With some point, or not with some rate increases, right, Patrick? Am I saying the right thing here? And
Yeah, we can kind of do the opposite of buying down the rate. You can buy up the rate and get help if cash to close is an issue. What we try to do when we're working with clients, before you go under contract, we'll run an illustration for you on our side. Everything is all the closing costs are responsibility of the buyer, right? But it can be negotiated from 0 to 100% of it. Right? It's on our side, what we try to do is give you a realistic estimate of what those total closing costs are going to be. And it's really going to be based on purchase price and loan amount. There's several closing costs that are percentage based on those two numbers, as well as your state and tangible taxes. Within that estimate, it is truly an estimate. We're estimating the attorney's cost. We're estimating your insurance. Your lender is not an insurance agent, but we're going to tell you what we see as normal and customary for that purchase price, so that you have a good idea of what to expect. We'll give you that illustration. We'll give it to your real estate agent. That way, y'all can formulate a plan when you're making your offer to know how much closing costs, if any, you're going to ask from the seller.
okay, we have another question here from Francis that says, "What is the right percent to put down?" Patrick, you want to help with that one too? I know there's not a great answer to that, but
yeah, I mean it's situational. It's not a one size fits all. If a lot of people like to get to the 20% mark to avoid mortgage insurance. I have some people that if you only have 20% to work with, maybe they'll they want to do some renovations when they move in, so they'll put down 10% now and then use their other cash to do renovations. We have some clients that are selling a house currently and buying one, and if they're going to buy before they sell, they'll do a low down payment, and then once they sell, they'll do a recast with the extra cash that they now have. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. I think, again, it kind of goes back to what are you comfortable with, and then letting a lender work those numbers for you and show you what it looks like.
and another reason to have a good lender, and I know he's giving me the wrap up sign here, is there's a lot of good programs out there for like first time buyers. I know there's some program assistance to pay a little bit less down, and there's USDA loans, FHA loans, VA loans, all these different kinds of things that affect that down payment amount. So any other questions?
I have one more, and the question is probably for Patrick as well, is should I get a fixed rate or adjustable mortgage?
That's a good question. Who asked that?
It doesn't have a name. It has a bunch of letters, so I don't know their name. I apologize.
I would say right now, I'm not advising anyone to get an adjustable rate mortgage. The reason being is that currently the way the yield is, which is what sets these mortgage rates, you can probably actually get a fixed rate cheaper than you can get an adjustable rate, which completely defeats the purpose. So at this point, I would say that ARM's adjustable rate mortgages are kind of not, I mean, they're just not happening right now.
Yeah. A lot of it's timing in the market, like, correct? Like, you know, I know 15-year mortgages were pretty big a few years ago. Now they're saying 30 is the new 15, you know, so it's timing in the market, correct?
Yeah, it is time in the market. It's where rates are. You know, if rates were 10%, but you could get an adjustable rate for 6%, we're having a totally different conversation.
Right, exactly. Okay, well, great questions. Any more questions before we wrap up here? Julie, is that all of them? We good? Okay, so what we're going to do is we have a home buyers toolkit that we're going to be emailing out to y'all in the next few days that'll have some of the forms you saw today in here and some other things. And we'll also include this presentation in there well as a PDF form in case you want to refer back to it. You know, you can more than welcome to call any of our agents. You know, you check our website, homesofgreatersavannah.com, homesofgreatersavannah.com. It's a great website. Check out our blog. And we really appreciate everybody stopping in today and look for more webinars in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You're welcome, Francis. I'll call you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
I get out of this thing.